Bottle of ciprofloxacin, which is antibiotic, stash.
100,000?
100,000 bottles.
How many people does that treat?
For the city officials. And I break it down of who it goes to. And so you've got like 16,000 bottles going to first responders. Obviously they need it. And then like a bunch of them going to like the zoo officials, you know, and the cultural affairs officials. I mean, I'm not kidding. I gave you the numbers. So it seems to be really poorly thought out. And really what I wanted to know is what happens to law enforcement? What happens to first responders? I did an interview with a fire commissioner named Jimmy Hara, who unfortunately died tragically last month in a car accident.
Oh, man.
I know. And he was an incredible person.
All right, we got 3 minutes till drop off. Thank you for being here. This is a true crime podcast on YouTube out of Prince William County. Please follow the channel. I did a podcast earlier. Watch the podcast. Share out the podcast on your Facebook. We're tracking a case out of Prince William County. It's a sealed case. We got friends. We got our hands on that sealed case. We got our hand on the file that's sealed by the county. We're leaking out the body cams in that case, and we're talking about what they're doing in that case. It's an ongoing case for 4 years, and the county refused to take this guy to trial. The question is, the county is telling you that this guy is guilty. Why not give him his day in court? Well, I got my hand on the sealed file, and it shows the reason they're not taking this guy to trial, and they have him in a county jail without a trial for 4 years. Imagine. Because they falsified the case. So, watch the podcast. Leave me a comment. Leave me a question. Leave me questions. Share it on your Facebook. In the meantime, we're out and about. We're trying to make some money. We're door dashing. So I'm taking everybody with me. Follow us. Subscribe. We've got 1 minute till drop off. Thank you for being here. In the meantime, we're listening to a podcast on Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan's podcast. He did a really interesting podcast with I don't know what this lady's name is. It's in my notes, but it's a very interesting lady. She's got a couple of books out, and they're talking about what happens if a disaster does hit. Are you prepared? That's what the whole podcast is about. Sean Ryan's podcast, interesting. This is a couple of hang on, when did he do this? 3 weeks ago. So that's what we're listening to in the meantime. I love everybody. Thank you for being here.
Person, completely dedicated. I mean, he served as a doctor in Vietnam, and he's been dedicated to LA public health and fire safety ever since. And he told me just flat out, Los Angeles is completely unprepared for a pneumonic plague attack, period, full stop. And then he took me through some of the details of what would happen. So I like in mixing these documents with interviews like Fire Commissioner Hara, I could begin to see.
Here we are. So there's specific instructions that I have to follow for this drop off. All right, we're here. Let's read the instructions. Okay, all right. All right, I'll be right back. is hot. All right. We got another order, 12 minute to drop off. No Face, thank you for being here. Hello. All right. Thank you for being here. All right, 12 minutes till drop off. All right.
That it's just complete ignorance. It's like being an ostrich with your head in the sand. And the 100 bottles of Cipro, I also learned, have this like wacky program attached to it. And I was going somewhere in this, which is where you're asking, where is the hole for insurrection and anarchy that the Defense Department in their documents is so worried about? Like, how does that happen? That's what I wanted to really drill down on so that I could explain it to readers. And the 100,000 bottles of just perfect example that would repeat around the country. So this 100 bottle supply gets dispersed by volunteers. How does that work? How do you have, imagine if you had a biological incident where you've got pneumonic plague with 100% death rate, no known cure, airborne, killing homeless people, which is being mistaken for something else, a mass overdose, for example, because that's happening all over the country. That's what epidemiologists are worried about. You've got law enforcement unprotected rushing in to help. And then you've got this kind of wild chaos at City Hall, rather in the emergency department of the city planners, and they're like, get the Cipro out to everybody. And they make an announcement on Facebook, which then goes viral. And so now you have everybody in Los Angeles trying to access what they believe is the medical countermeasure, which will save their lives and the lives of their family members. And America is a nation of guns. 500 million guns in America, according to a Gallup poll. So you can see, that's where insurrection and anarchy happens. That's the Daschle quote, people doing inhuman things just to survive. And by the way, not from Annie Jacobson's imagination, looking at declassified or unclassified war games that game this out show that is exactly what people begin to kill one another over perceived medical countermeasures. It's a grim story.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, I don't think people think about it, but I mean, of course, what measure are you going to take to save your husband and your kids?
And I think,
it's going to be like that until the playing field is level, and it looks like Yemen, Afghanistan, where there is not really much social hierarchy.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the same playing field, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that it will continue until that happens, until all the resources have been ransacked. It's done. There's nothing left to ransack, and then you have to learn to survive off what's left.
The devolution component of that was stunning to me was that what the Defense Department prepares for. So what's interesting is, I mentioned before that HHS is in charge of this when it happens, but very quickly HHS realizes in its wargaming that they need the military's help. This is page 1. Because, for example, they can't get supplies out to the states. And when you're talking about a pathogen that's killing people in like 48 hours, speed is everything. And so they're trying to get medical countermeasures out to states, and they need the military's help. They need transportation command. And so I had this moment in working on this book where I realized that I mentioned earlier, my God, like not since World War II will Americans be so happy to see the military show up in their town or their city to try and, regain control, to try and bring back order.
I think a lot of people are tracking the wrong things when it comes to health. They track steps, workouts, body weight, all that kind of stuff. And that stuff can be useful, but if you don't know what's happening inside your body, you're still missing the bigger picture. That's why I use Superpower. Superpower gives you a real look under the hood. One simple lab test gives you information on over 100 biomarkers. I'm talking about things like cholesterol, testosterone, cortisol, and that's just the start. And the value is not just the lab test, it's what Superpower helps you do with the information. You can track your results over time, understand long-term trends, see your biological age, and get a personalized protocol based on your results. That's what makes it useful. If you're serious about training, recovery, energy, longevity, or just staying ahead of your health, you need more than surface level data. You need to know what's actually going on. Superpower is the most affordable 100+ biomarker lab test, starting at $199, and it's HSA FSA eligible. Make this the year you stop guessing about your health with Superpower. For a limited time, our listeners get $20 off to unlock their new health intelligence. Head over to superpower.com and use code SRSClips for $20 off your membership. That's code SRSClips. And after you sign up,
And sort of the insert.
Brad, hello. Thank you for being here. You said instead of music, we're listening to ads. What's wrong with listening to ads? Do you not listen to ads? Bradley? There's a lot of people that listen to ads. Okay? What are you trying to make me feel weird about listening to ads? Bradley? Brad, thank you for being here. Follow the channel, hit the like button. If you want to listen to more ads, you've reached the right channel. Hey, everybody's got their hobby, okay? All right, we're getting coffee, we're getting hot chocolate. So when we get back, we got coffee and hot chocolate while we listen to ads. All right, I'll be right back, okay? In the meantime, guess you're not going to be listening to anything. Bradley. All right, I'll be back. right. All right. We got our coffee. We got our hot chocolate. Life is beautiful. All right. All right. Is Bradley still here? Brad? I hope you're still here, man. I'm going to play more ads for you. All right. GD, hello. Thank you for being here. Did you mute me? All right. No need for name calling because, you know, I could just mute you, but I haven't yet. Let me give you a couple of chances. All right. Let's not name call. All right. Let's be nice. All right. Let's be nice. All right. It doesn't take much to be nice, or otherwise I'm gonna have to mute you. Did I mute you yet? No. Why would I mute you? I mean, everybody has their opinion, right? Right? You like to listen to music. I like to listen to ads. Everybody's got their preference. Right? Right.
Direction that will be unfolding as people begin to panic.
I mean, maybe they would be happy.
Well, I think a lot of people would be happy because not everybody's criminally minded, okay, and are going to be thinking help is on the way.
Well, I mean, how is the military going to treat the infected?
And that's where it gets...
Especially if they don't have an antidote.
So the military, I learned, and you probably know this...
How are they going to trade the infected when they don't have an antidote and you only have 48 minutes before you can start infecting everybody else? I think that's an obvious question. It's an obvious answer. Right? What do you think the military is going to do to you? Help! All right, let's see what she has to say.
Issued 1.7 million gas masks to its personnel. So you have...
I don't think at that point they're here to help.
Are protected. And now you have another situation
they're
which
definitely going
is
to help you.
The mask becomes a coveted item. So now you have President declaring an insurrection act so that posse comitatus can be overridden. Posse comitatus, the act after the Civil War that prohibits the military from carrying out law enforcement measures in the United States. That gets repealed with Insurrection Act. It's the only act that can do that. The president has the authority to declare it at whenever he chooses. Okay? So the Insurrection Act gets laid down, and now military can act with those orders, same as in a war theater. So there's like a moment in time, it seemed to my eye writing this, where order could be restored. But then I learned that there's only so many military, and there are 340 million Americans. So you do the math. And then you realize that with shoot to kill orders and the fact that the devolution plan calls for there's a component of American infrastructure called critical infrastructure. You don't even really think about it until you hopefully read about it in my book and go, of course, like the roadway, everything from the communication systems, the banking systems, the roads, the nuclear power plants,
Electrical grid,
the electrical
water treatment plants,
water treatment, wastewater. This is critical infrastructure, and that needs to be guarded, and that's what the military begins to guard.
No matter where you're watching the Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this at all, anything, please like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, head to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a review.
Wayfair presents sofas and chairs. Find the perfect sofa at the perfect price with hundreds of options under $9.99. Save big on couches that turn into beds, sofas that store, and super spacious sectionals. Plus, A huge lineup of accent chairs for every style, all with fast and free shipping straight to your door. Saved you a seat. Shop seating for way less at Wayfair.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Same pouches, lower prices. Your pouches online. NicoKick.com.
we've learned, and here's the problem. You've got the chief of police weighing on Crystal as if Crystal is already found guilty. Wait, I thought you're innocent until proven guilty. What happened to that? You've got a Commonwealth attorney that comes out and tells you there is no audio on this dash camera. Well, let's examine. Mustafa? Yeah. I mean, in this country, do we still have something called you're innocent until proven guilty? Well, that's out the door when you have the chief of police all over the news talking about Crystal is already guilty. Here's a problem. The officer that have his foot on the brake the entire time. This is Mustafa's foot on the brake the whole entire time. When it says on, that means Mustafa's foot is on the brake the entire time. So Mustafa is slamming on the brake the entire time trying to stop the vehicle. Question is, was Mustafa accelerating? Was Mustafa hitting the gas? Mustafa's foot, when it says 0, Mustafa was not hitting the gas. Mustafa's foot was only on the brake. He was only slamming on the brake. Did Mustafa have his foot on the brake the entire time? This is Mustafa's foot on the brake.
Offer accepted. We'll add it to your route.
Did Mustafa have his foot on the brake? Did Mustafa have his foot on the brake the entire time? This is Mustafa's foot on the brake. So
Did Mustafa have his foot on the brake the entire time? You've got a Commonwealth attorney that comes out and tells you there is no audio on this dash camera. Well, let's examine the officer that handled this dash camera. I mean, today, the motion does come in. You've got a Commonwealth camera. I mean, today, the motion does coming up. You've got a Commonwealth attorney that comes out, tells you there is no audio on this dash camera. Well, let's examine the officer.
I would go for you their last.
Did Mustafa have his foot on the brake the entire time? This is
Ice marching Dearborn, Michigan in August 18. طبعا 18 8 المسيحيين مال أمريكا راح يروحون
Is it possible to create a biological weapon that would only target American DNA, Canadian DNA, North American DNA, Latino DNA, Black DNA?
I asked him that question and he said to me after a bit of a pause, yes. And there are suspicions that China is doing that.
What was the Wuhan lab?
It's extremely dangerous. It's called gain of function. And the idea, which is so spooky, is that they wanted to kill all the people in America and the West and leave the infrastructure intact. Those were their words. Here's an interesting fact. Biological war is illegal. Biological weapons are illegal. Nuclear weapons are not illegal. Crazy thought, okay? Okay, there's only a certain amount of countries that have them, and they're making sure no one else gets them, hence Iran. But nuclear weapons are not illegal to those who hold them. Biological weapons, all biological weapons are illegal. They were made illegal by a treaty called the Biological Weapons Convention, the BWC, it's the treaty, in 1972. Before that, the United States had a massive arsenal of biological weapons, which is just crazy to think about. That's Cold War paranoia for you. We had them, Russia had them, China was building them, North Korea. So they became illegal. President Nixon decided they're repugnant to the conscience of mankind. That's what he said. Okay? And makes them illegal. We destroyed our biological weapons. It took 219 weeks to destroy them, by the way. So everybody says we're going to destroy our weapons, biological weapons. Everybody signs the treaty. Not for another 20 years would the United States learn from Soviet defector scientists that the Russians went like this. Oh yeah, here, we signed that treaty. And then they began to build a colossal biological weapons program. They called it their Manhattan Project. And the idea, which is so spooky, is that they wanted to kill all the people in America and the West and leave the infrastructure intact. Those were their words.
Interesting. Smart and interesting and evil. I mean, we were talking about Ancestry.com, 23andMe.
Yeah.
Who knows what else is out there that people are using, but I mean, would you say an arsenal of biological? I mean, how many different types of biological weapons do you need? Can they? I mean, I'm sure they can. I mean, can they engine? By sucking that DNA out, or LabCorp, the biggest blood diagnostics company in the world. I mean, can they get that information, hack that information, or just sell it? I mean, I think 23andMe and Ancestry and probably all the other ones have sold all the data multiple times, allegedly. But is it possible to create a biological weapon that would only target American DNA, Canadian DNA, North American DNA, Latino DNA, Black DNA, any race?
There is. And that, by the way, this is not something I get into in the book. It was a little too speculative narrative for me to really go down, okay? But let me tell you that was confirmed. I asked that exact question to Admiral Brett Drouar, and he was the Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services at the White House during COVID. Okay, he's also a medical doctor. He ran DARPA's bioscience office. He's an incredible human being. He's a character in the book, for sure. I mean, he's really a remarkable person. Grew up in a small town in Texas, first guy in his town to go to Harvard, fully dedicated to service his whole life. I asked him that question and he said to me after a bit of a pause, yes. And there are suspicions that China is doing that. So The suspicions part of it is where I make a distinction for Annie as a journalist. I'm going to work my scenario from what is known, what is on the record, and what has been confirmed by people on the other side, because then I can never be accused of like fear-mongering. Like if I were to go down that lane, perhaps people would say, well, you're fear-mongering because it's speculative because you don't know for sure, right? Now, when you have someone like Admiral Giroir saying it's speculative, the subtext in that, you and I can infer what that means. So I don't think someone like that is going to say something like that to me off the cuff without a little more fear, shall we say, than speculation.
So there's speculative rumors that China is creating this, or has.
Yes. Yes, and there's also...
Never been so happy to have Asian blood.
Yes. Really? How is that? You got to tell me that. How is that?
Because part Japanese.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm good.
I never knew that. Mom or dad?
Dad.
Dad. Interesting. Okay, so you got the DNA immunity, perhaps.
I'm good.
I never knew that.
So there's speculative rumors that China is creating this, or has.
Yes. Yes, and there's also...
Never been so happy to have Asian blood.
Yes. Really? How is that? You got to tell me that. How is that?
Because part Japanese.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm good.
I never knew that. Mom or dad?
Dad.
Dad. Interesting. Okay, so you got the DNA immunity, perhaps,
Yeah,
if that's the
hopefully,
case.
Hopefully.
There's a very interesting paper for anyone who's interested in reading on this. So Dr. Robert Kadlec, source in the book, he is now the current administration, essentially the biodefense
Josh,
chief.
hello. Thank you for being here. Hello. We're listening to the Sean Ryan podcast, and he has this really interesting lady. She has like multiple books. At one point I knew her name. I just can't remember her name for some reason. But it's a really interesting lady. She's talking about scenarios in case of an emergency, in case of, so it's really interesting. This podcast is 3 weeks ago. So he did this podcast 3 weeks ago. What you're watching is me out and about door dashing. So we're out trying to make some money. This is a true crime podcast out of Prince William County. So this channel, we're following and tracking the case of Mustafa Al-Jazari. An ongoing case. Mustafa Al-Jazari case has been ongoing for 4 years. The county said guilty, but for some reason, they're not taking this person that they're telling us he's guilty to trial. So the county refuses to take him to trial. So this is a sealed case. Fast forward to, I've got some friends where I got my hand on the sealed file, the body cams, the documents, and we're actively leaking it on YouTube. I did a podcast earlier today. When you get a chance, please watch the podcast. And what you find out, the reason the county is not taking him to trial because the county falsified the case. That's a problem for the whole entire county, because if that's what you're doing in this case, what else are you doing coming out of that county? Stuff like that don't just happen in a vacuum. That means you've been doing it and you're still doing it. So check out the podcast. Please share it on your Facebook. Leave me your questions. And in the meantime, thank you for being here. And we're out and about door dashing, and we're listening to my favorite podcast, Sean Ryan.
Dedicated to biodefense, starting in the Bush administration, has had huge, powerful jobs across every administration. He actually ran Operation Warp Speed during COVID, which was the vaccine program. He's an Air Force colonel and a medical doctor, and he's now the current president's biodefense chief. So he, we had conversation before, and then when you go back into the administration, you can't really talk to a journalist like me. But right before going back into the administration, he wrote a paper on China's biological program. So the State Department speculates China has a bioweapons program. The State Department confirms that Russia has a bioweapons program. North Korea has a bioweapons program, according to the US State Department. China, maybe. Iran, maybe. That's what they say.
Maybe.
They say maybe.
I mean, I'm sorry. What was the Wuhan lab?
So here's
Maybe.
And again, we're talking about language.
What about Ukraine?
We're talking about language.
Well, those are our biolabs.
Those were some of ours. So the position of the State Department is the Russian biological program I told you about, that very evil program in the 70s and 80s, was absorbed, not dismantled. And so that is why they take the position Russia still has a program. And China, so this is how a diplomat would clarify maybe. That the treaty I told you about, the BWC, which everybody is supposed to adhere to, all the signatories, and not have bioweapons. There's a tiny go around, which is that you can do genetic engineering for defensive purposes, for prophylactic purposes. And so that's where you get the Wuhan excuse, which is that we were modifying the coronavirus so that we would know how to defend against it. You see? So that's the kind of catch-22. In plain language, I call it a hooky-doo, which allows these BSL-4 labs, biosafety level 4, that's the highest level, guys in spacesuits, to manipulate viruses and pathogens in really dangerous ways, so that in case somebody else uses it, we know how to defend against it. And that has its own longer conversation, and it's extremely dangerous. It's called gain of function.
All right, so we just dropped off the food. All right, so this is what we're gonna do. Every time we drop off an order, we are gonna release a video from the podcast. All right, I think that's a good way of doing it, okay? So that way, you pick up an order, you do an order, you do a podcast. We release a video. So that way, we're multitasking. All right, we're not losing focus. All right, all right, all right. Life is good. Life is amazing. All right.
Listen to what officer
Al-Jazari's attorney says that evidence.
we just watched. The computer inside the vehicle showed that Mustafa's foot is on the brake the entire time. And this officer comes out and says, what exactly? No skid marks and light braking. His foot is on the fucking brakes the whole time. Wait a minute. Why is Officer Mason not telling us what the police department found when they inspected Mustafa's vehicle? mean, Officer Chad Mason, you're all over the news, but you're not telling us that the police department found brake failure when they inspected Mustafa's vehicle.
Al-Jazeera's attorney says that evidence.
Let's go over to the body cam that's leaked out of Mustafa's file.
Right rear tire brake didn't engage.
Let's listen to that one more time. Brake did not engage. So brake failure. When Mustafa is slamming on the brake, the vehicle would not stop because you, the police, inspected the vehicle and found brake failure.
Right rear tire brake didn't engage.
Let's go over to the body cam that's leaked. First of all, this is interesting. What if I tell you Chad Mason, in his own word, is telling you that he is not an expert? Let's read the transcript. All right. This is a document this is the motion. You'll find it on Beyond the Metal Bars on TikTok. All right. Under Commonwealth motion, eliminate to admit evidence. This is a document this is the motion. You'll find it on Beyond the Metal Bars on TikTok. All right. Under Commonwealth motion, eliminate to admit evidence of event data recorder and expert testimony. So what she's attempting to do is attempt to bring in Chad Mason and have him testify as an expert. All right. So page 3 out of 11. Okay. Come now, the Commonwealth, by and through her attorney, and respectfully moves this court for a pre-trial ruling to admit the following. 1, the expert testimony of investigator Derek Vaco of the Prince William County Police Department regarding the retrieval data recorder, EDR data of the Chevy Suburban. So the other vehicle involved in this collision is the Chevy Suburban. And what Prosecutor Sarah Sammy wants to do is bring in investigators. A problem because here in this motion, Prosecutor Derek out of Mustafa's file.
Right rear tire
over to the body cam that's
accepted. We'll add it to your route.
Did Mustafa have his foot on the brake the entire time? This is Mustafa's foot on the brake the whole entire time. When it says on, that means Mustafa's foot is on the brake the entire time. So Mustafa is slamming on the brake the entire time trying to stop the vehicle. Question is, was Mustafa accelerating? Was Mustafa hitting the gas? Mustafa's foot, when it says 0, Mustafa was not hitting the gas. Mustafa's foot was only on the brake. He was only slamming on the brake. Did Mustafa have
we got ETA is 3 minutes. All right, 3 minutes. All right, we got our coffee, we got hot chocolate. Actually, I didn't get hot chocolate, I got mocha. I lied. Not mocha, cappuccino. I got original cappuccino. All right.
Oh, hey, Cole's mom. Remember, no direct eye contact.
What would you rather go through? A nuclear war scenario or a biological pathogen that...
Okay, first
Because that could be a long, slow, painful death. I mean, I guess so could nuclear war if you aren't in the blast zone, but...
I mean, one of the biggest takeaways that readers came back at me with after reading Nuclear War Scenario was, I just want to die in the immediate blast. Because, you know, it's like that Nikita Khrushchev quote, the survivors would envy the dead. In many ways, bio has that same component. Probably because of what you said, that you just think of having this like long, slow, painful death. But the reality I learned when researching and reporting this book is actually a little bit more frightening, which is that, so in Nuclear War, I take readers from nuclear launch to nuclear winter in 72 minutes. 72 minutes, not days, minutes. That's how fast it could happen according to Stratcom. In biological war, I take the readers from outbreak to anarchy in 6 days. Because anarchy and insurrection is the real threat. And that was shocking to learn, again, from the Defense Department. And you're talking about in the homeland. Anarchy, insurrection. A common phrase I came across when looking at declassified documents was fear of infection will send America spiraling into anarchy and insurrection. Fear of infection. There's just something so visceral about this idea of being infected.
Do you prepare for this kind of stuff? I mean, what does your house look like?
What is my house?
You got a bunker?
What?
You got a bunker?
No, I just have a house, you know. I mean, call me naive, but I just really think man-made problems, man-made solution. And that's the optimist in me. But it is really helpful to know what you're up against. It's very helpful to know. I mean, want me to give you like 3 basic ideas of bio to understand?
Yeah.
Okay,
definitely.
so because like sometimes I write for like everybody. Like, just give it to me so I can understand it. That's the questions I ask the smartest people in the room, and it's what I try to convey. Because if you're like too knowledgeable on a subject, sometimes you lose your audience. So, and we all lived through the COVID pandemic. So whenever you're talking about a biological incident, 3 things. How might I get it? That's transmissibility. How might I get it? How deadly is it? Okay, COVID, 1% death rate. 1 out of 100 people died. Flu, 0.1%. Okay? Third thing is there something I can take that will heal me? That's called medical countermeasure. 3 basic components. And so through all of modern history and Defense Department planning against biological war has been like looking at those 3 and creating lists of fears around them. And so when people don't know any of that, the fear, like for example, your tick patient. A tick is called a vector-borne disease, so it has to bite you for you to be infected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The most deadly threat is an airborne pathogen, and that's what COVID was. So something that can be breathed through an airborne pathogen because it's unstoppable. The weapon essentially system becomes the human lungs. And you know, another really interesting thing to me learning about all this was that the uncertainty idea is so huge in public health. Remember when COVID happened? Or maybe people don't remember this because it's kind of like easier to forget. For the first 3 months, the CDC, who is in charge, and the WHO, who's kind of in charge internationally, were sending out tweets that said COVID not airborne. NOT in big letters. Reprint one of their tweets in the book.
Nice.
COVID not airborne. It was airborne. It was airborne. And instead of admitting they were wrong or even out of the gate saying, look, we don't know, because they didn't know, to insist that then creates this kind of spiraling mistrust. Hence your opening question about trust, you know?
Fiverr brought a new generation of AI directors to its platform. Now any business can work with the creators redefining how video gets made. Hire AI directors on Fiverr.
I don't want to cry, but ECPI changed my life.
Change lives. Start with yours. ECPI University.
Going through, you know, the outline and said, we brought a lot of stuff to mind. I mean, we'll get into the book here in just a second, but if you looked at Ancestry.com or like any of these, you know, these, my mind's going blank here, biometrics, you know, companies, and I mean, and who owns them? And I mean, they could take your DNA that you paid to have tested and create a bioweapon specifically designed to assassinate you.
Absolutely. I mean, individual targets are a whole other dirty game. And historically, that has been going on for a very long time. The Soviets had huge assassination programs, specifically, you know, creating like poisons. Poisoning is like one of the oldest assassination ruses in the world. I mean, you can think of like a poison arrow, or like somebody. There was an Al Qaeda guy that got assassinated.
Questions that were. If we've learned anything, here's a problem. You've got the chief of police weighing on Crystal as if Crystal is already found guilty. Wait, I thought you're innocent until proven guilty. What happened to that? I mean, in this country, let's listen to document.
I want to say one of the, like, before the war on terror, he was in Kosovo, I believe, and Katab was his last name.
Interesting.
And he like opened up a letter and somehow licked it or closed the letter, and that there was poison on it, and he died. So there are these very specific assassinations that way. But what I think is the really big threat is this: what the Defense Department calls, what FEMA calls, what HHS, our Health and Human Services, call, because bio is a multi-agency event, which is even more complex and threatening because now you're talking about multiple agencies and stovepiping. But you have, you have airborne pathogens that can be, or rather you have pathogens that can be genetically modified, to your point, to become airborne, right? So genetic modification of let me say one thing, because the pathogen thing can kind of be like, what the hell is that? Viruses and bacteria are both pathogens. Germs are everywhere. We have germs in our stomachs. Germs are not necessarily bad. When you call it a pathogen, that means it can be deadly. Virus and bacteria. COVID was a virus. Plague, which I use as the pathogen in my book, that scenario, plague is a bacteria. Plague was a bioweapon of yesteryear and then a medical countermeasure was invented to fight plague because it's a bacteria. So antibiotics kill the plague. Now with genetic modification, you can tweak the plague pathogen, which is called Yersinia pestis, so that it is immune to the antibiotics. That's where we're into some very sinister genetic modifications that most people don't know about, don't want to know about, but probably should know a little bit about.
Yeah.
Try astrology mode now on Tinder.
I talk a lot about training, nutrition, and mindset, but if your sleep is off, you're leaving a lot on the table. Recovery doesn't happen while you're grinding. It happens when you're asleep. That's when your body rebuilds, resets, and actually absorbs the work you put in. And one of the biggest factors in sleep quality is temperature. If you're too hot, you end up tossing and turning and not getting deep sleep. That's why I started using ChiliPad 2.0 by SleepMe. ChiliPad 2.0 is a water-based mattress topper that lets you control your sleep temperature from 55 degrees to 115 degrees. And it works with the mattress you already have. I love how simple and effective it is. Plus, the new version has a redesigned dock. It's quieter, the tank is bigger, and the topper unzips, so it's easy to wash. And the nightstand remote is huge. Each side of the bed gets its own thermostat. So if one person runs hot and the other runs cold, you can each set your own temperature. It even detects when you get into bed and automatically starts your sleep schedule. For me, falling asleep and staying asleep is the whole game. ChiliPad helps make the room, the bed, and the temperature work for recovery instead of against it. Visit www.sleep.me/SRS to get up to $255 off your ChiliPad 2.0 with code SRS. This special offer is available for Sean Ryan Show listeners and only for a limited time. Order it today with free shipping and try it out for 30 days. You can return it for free if you don't like it with their sleep trial. Visit www.sleep.me/SRS and see why cold sleep is your ultimate ally in performance and recovery.
Because it helps you know what you're up against.
I mean, it's scary, you know. It's, from what I understand, it's a lot cheaper to produce a bioweapon, a lot easier to sneak it in the country, a lot easier to get it released. I mean, I'm not a scientist or anything, but you know, you see, you know, all the things that are being created right now. The dire wolf, the woolly mammoth supposedly is coming back. We had Charles Hoskinson on, who's one of the scientists. Have you heard about the plants that they're developing? They're making bioluminescent plants that can glow whatever color they want, which is amazing. You know, some of the use. I mean, he was saying, you know, you could put these things around, put these plants around a nuclear power plant or whatever. And if there's any radiation leaking, then the plants will glow red. And he showed me pictures of what these things look like. We couldn't put it on the episode because it was so early on. But I mean, it's like something you would see in that movie, The Avatar.
It's like science fiction, except for it's science fact.
It's real.
And this is, you know, when you're talking about these kind of modifications to Mother Nature, it brings up this idea, which I think is super important and is kind of at the heart of all of this debate, discussion, science moving forward, which is dual use. So yes, if you're able to create plants that can detect radiation leakage, that's another form of an intelligence vehicle, like what's called, you know, like we have sniffer technology. We can test sewer water. We can, same as we can see, you know, explosions from space. That's a signals intelligence. So measurement and signature intelligence, called MESINT, would be the plants. And that would be terrific for us because it's a way of understanding what an adversary is up to. In the biomedical world, the reason you have
County Police Chief Peter Newsham. Thank you, Chief, for being with us today. Let's begin with your investigation into an illegal car rally that ended in a deadly shooting. Are you any closer to making arrests in this case?
So, yeah, as you know, it happened at the beginning of the month, and we had a 16-year-old young man who lost his life. A horrible story.
We have Prince William County Police. Prince William County Police Chief Peter Newsham. Prince William County Police. Prince William County. We have Prince William County Police Chief Peter Newsham. Thank you, Chief, for being with us today. Let's begin with your investigation into an illegal car rally that ended in a deadly shooting. Are you any closer to making arrests in this case?
So yeah, as you know, it happened at the beginning of the month, and we had a 16-year-old young man who lost his life. A horrible story. And we are making some pretty decent progress in this case. So we have had some folks who have been cooperative, but we're still urging anybody who might have any video. We have a QR code that's available, so it could be easily downloaded and sent to us. And what I would say to anybody out there who might have video, that, you know, our number one interest is ensuring that this family receive some justice for the loss of life of their young son, their young brother. And so if anybody has that information, they want to share it, it could be very critical to us in getting to the bottom of this case.
And I know, adding another challenge to the investigation, we know the scene cleared before police arrived. What is your department doing to get ahead of these illegal meetups?
So much like a lot of my colleagues in the region, and I think you know this as well, these car meets are happening on a pretty regular basis throughout the region. They're a little bit secretive in how they plan them. They're primarily happening after midnight. They'll run till about 3 o'clock in the morning, and they'll gather in open parking lots. So it could be a commuter lot, it could be a business lot. And some of the folks that are attending these rallies are doing it with the intention of going out there and showing off their car, meeting with friends. But frankly, there are some bad actors that are going out there with the intention of driving dangerously, of bringing weapons to these events. And when you have those interactions, we'll have what we had back in the beginning of August. Is you got a young kid here who lost his life. So we've been very successful here in the county getting to most of these events before they get large. And that was the case in this particular incident. Our officers got there relatively quick, but in this instance, we didn't get there soon enough, and a young person lost their life.
We have Prince William County Police Chief Peter Newsham. Thank you, Chief, for being with us today. Let's begin with your investigation into an illegal car rally that ended in a deadly shooting. Are you any closer to making arrests in this case?
So yeah, as you know, it happened at the beginning of the month, and we had a 16-year-old young man who lost his life.
a problem because here in this motion, prosecutor Sarah Sammy wants to bring in investigator Derek Vaco to pull the EDR from the Suburban, the other vehicle involved in this collision. Wait a minute, on body cam, we're watching investigator Drum tell his supervisor that the other vehicle has no evidentiary value. Therefore, we're gonna block it from getting inspected. Let's watch that body cam. That's a problem because I mean, when you get to the bottom of it, what is going on in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case? We want to preserve the evidence. We want to make sure that it's not manipulated. We don't want to manipulate the evidence. Look at the car, and I'm going to show you a picture of the vehicle after the accident, and look at what they've done to the car. The police department crushed this vehicle inside the police department. They took the vehicle after the accident to the police department, and they crushed it. And they want to talk about preserving it. We want to preserve. The police department crushed this vehicle inside the police department. Why are we watching your officer tell the independent experts that you said you can't look at the car and blocking this reconstruction, breaking a judge order? Which one is that? Let's go back to Sarah Sammy. One more time. Sarah Sammy's telling us what exactly? Sarah Sammy's telling us, my understanding, so in the lower court, when Mr. Stevens was counsel of record, or Mr. Aldridge, here you are on a leaked body cam, it showed that the main investigator, the same investigator that lied all over the news, Robert Drum, is telling the independent expert, prosecutor Sarah Sammy said, you cannot reconstruct this accident. You cannot touch the vehicles. Not Mustafa's vehicle, not the other vehicle involved in this collision, the SUV.
The tow bed?
Here you are on a leaked body cam. It showed that the main investigator, the same investigator that lied all over the news, Robert Drum, is telling the independent expert, prosecutor Sarah Sammy said, you cannot reconstruct this accident. How is he going to reconstruct this accident? How is he going to reconstruct this entire collision? Wait a minute. Doesn't he have a judge order to reconstruct this collision? Wait, isn't prosecutor Sarah Sammy telling the judge, I allowed the reconstruction of this vehicle? But you've got this officer, the same officer that lied, blocking it. Under the pretense, we don't want anything manipulated. How is he going to reconstruct this accident? How is he going to reconstruct this entire collision? This is the fire department brought in to chop at the vehicle. Why did you chop at the vehicle? Wait a minute. Your pretense for not allowing the independent expert to touch the vehicle is because you want to preserve it? What's going on here? Sure doesn't look like you're preserving anything. It sure looks like you're chopping, crushing, and staging the vehicle. This is the fire department chopping away. Chopping away at the vehicle that's supposed to be preserved. I mean, you're charging Mustafa with murder, and you're supposed to preserve the evidence, the main piece of evidence, which is the vehicle. But you're crushing the main piece of evidence. This is the fire department brought in to chop at the vehicle. You're charging Mustafa with murder, and you're supposed to preserve the evidence, the main piece of evidence, which is the vehicle. But you're crushing the main piece of evidence. Explain to me how the vehicle went from this at the scene after the accident to this. And they want to tell you, we're going to block the inspection of, because we want to, Prosecutor Sarah Sammy said, we want to preserve the evidence. What are you talking about? Look what you've done to the car. Are you terrified that someone is going to reconstruct this accident? Absolutely. Are you blocking this inspection from moving forward? Absolutely. And what do you want to do? You want to bring in an officer that already lied. Officer Chad Mason. You're charging Mustafa with murder.
That's why.
Sadie, thank you for being here. It is really good. It was really good. Okay. Yeah, I think when you're doing this, you forget to eat. So when you do eat, it's always good to find time, take a break, and get something to eat. But yeah, it was really good. All right, so we just got this order. All right, let's see how far this is. This is 12 minutes away. Not a bad deal. Okay. Sadie, please make sure to follow the podcast. This is a true crime podcast out of Prince William County. We're tracking and following the case of Mustafa Al-Jazari. This case has been ongoing for 4 years. We got our hand on the sealed file. We're leaking the body cams and the documents. It shows that the county is falsifying this case. I did a podcast earlier today. Please make sure to hit the like button, share it on your Facebook, and leave me questions. In the meantime, we're out and about, making money, trying to make some money, door dashing. So thank you for being here. Make sure you share this live, this podcast on your Facebook.
Genetic modification, the reason this all began, and by the way, it was kind of discovered, invented in 1971 in a lab in California at Stanford, genetic modification. So the idea of those scientists, they certainly weren't weapons engineers. They were like, we're going to be able to create incredible medical countermeasures in the same way that penicillin itself was a medical countermeasure and stopped infection. You know, so many soldiers died in World War II because of wound infection. Penicillin comes along, fantastic. You've knocked out all of so many bacteria deaths. So that's the idea if you're, you know, a doctor, if you're trying to do good in the world or trying to kind of keep the world in balance. But the other side of dual use is weaponizing something. Overall threat.
Really?
Greatest overall threat. That is shocking. That needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
And it's because the bar for entry is so low. You know, think about we've had nuclear technology for 80 years now, weapons technology. There's an incredibly low bar, high bar for entry. You can't just make a nuclear bomb in your basement.
Mm-hmm.
Bioweapons, people will now tell you that like a high school student with limited biology can essentially do some genetic tweaks to create this kind of thing. So the accident, absolutely. That sounds alarmist. It's true. That is like worthy of a discussion in and of itself.
That's basically everybody. No matter where you're watching the Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this at all, anything, please like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, head to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a review.
Know what it was that sparked your guys' interest.
Yeah, I think my producer found you.
Know what it was that sparked your guys' interest.
Yeah, I think my producer found you, and so anyways, we've been tracking you probably for 6 months maybe.
Wow.
But love your work.
Thank you.
How do you get, before we get into the interview, how do you get that much access?
Everyone, this is my most asked question. reaction. And there are a few things that I can attribute it to. First, I nerd out about this. I've always been interested since a kid, and we'll get into that, in organized crime and international conflict. And so I try to know about it as much as I can. And I think people recognize that. Second, I don't judge. So I have my own, morals and ethics and personal values, but I never let that come across the people I'm speaking to, whether they're the good guys, the bad guys, or somewhere in between or undecided. And I just want to hear everyone's story. I just want to know what's going on. I want to give people a voice. I feel like they don't have one. And then also, I'm a 24-year-old girl from Canada.
You're only 24?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know I look a lot older. But I'm a 24-year-old girl from Canada who wants to talk about what was your reaction to Trump saying that you and your colleagues are terrorists. I'm just curious to know. And a lot of these guys will open up. Keep in mind, I'm typically always and only working with men. So organized crime is dominated by men. And so when I go in, it's very unalarming. I mean, I don't give off the vibe that I'm going to kill you or rat on you or have some sort of hidden agenda. I just like to hear the stories. I'm genuinely interested, and I like to tell them in the most unbiased way possible, the most honest way. And so that has allowed me to gain the trust of a lot of people who have a lot of high-level information and are willing to share it with me. And I've put my work in for that, because I've spoken to quite a few people over the course of my career who took a risk in sharing information with me, reaching out to me or speaking to me or meeting with me. And I never have ever let their identities been known or given that information to someone who could put their situation at risk. So that's how I think I get access. And I'm a pusher. I attack.
I mean, where did you start though? I mean, why do you think they give you access? There's a lot of people that'll go down there and listen to what they have to say. And plus all those journalists are getting killed down there. I don't know if they're still getting killed, but a couple of years ago they were murdering journalists left and right.
Mexico actually is like one of the top countries for the most murdered journalists and female journalists.
There you go.
Just check the box.
Yeah.
Why me? I mean, I push for it. I'm like, let me talk to you. And if they say no, I go and ask someone else, or I ask differently. I don't really take no for an answer. And I convince them why I'm the right person that they can share this information with or take me along, whether that's law enforcement or it's organized crime people.
Why do you think they want to get any of the information out to begin with?
It's a way to flaunt their power, flex their muscles, show people, look, I'm doing all of this crime. I basically run Mexico. I run the drug trade, and I'm committing violent acts in broad daylight, gruesomely. And I'm giving this information to the press. And catch me if you can.
Interesting.
That's certainly what it is. I think it's an ego thing, for sure.
Flex.
It's a flex, 100%. For some people, it's also kind of like media relations. They put this message out there, an adversary hears or sees it, and they're sending a message.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, let's get into the interview. Here we go. So, Katarina Schultz, a fearless investigative journalist who's gone where few dare, diving headfirst into the heart of Mexico's cartel strongholds like Sinaloa and Jalisco to expose the brutal reality of organized crime. A bilingual, boots-on-the-ground reporter tracking the cartel empire and its influence on North America, former traditional journalist who realized you needed to get out of the newsroom to find out what's really happening, and you're the author of your popular Substack, keep people informed on all things cartel related. So thank you for coming in here, and We got a whole slew of topics to cover. But you had mentioned something. You'd mentioned you went down. I don't know if it was really happened, but you said you went down to the cartels, some of the cartel members, and asked what they thought about Trump labeling them terrorist organizations. What was there for that?
Yeah, so I went to a border region where some members of organized crime spoke with me, and they're responsible for a significant amount of the trafficking and human smuggling operations. And this was right after Trump had officially declared them FTOs, because there was a lot of rhetoric around this previously, and even Texas Governor Greg Abbott had previously declared them FTOs. But now this was real, and this I had assumed was going to invoke a lot of fear, especially when it came to the financial pipelines, because that's what this act really attacks, is the cartel's finances. And that's so much worse than putting a bounty on their family members or stopping the flow of drugs. Like, for them, it's the money, freezing financial assets, shutting down their shell companies, whatever it is. And so I wanted to know, because we were seeing so many headlines of how crazy this is and politicians reacting. Okay, but the guys who are really going to face the brunt of this, what's going on? And so I asked them, what do you think about Trump calling you and who you work with and your networks terrorists? And how is this going to do? And it's so funny, because I had anticipated this reaction, but I didn't think that actually was, we don't care. We're just going to wait 4 years. It's not that deep.
Wow. Wow.
We're not going to fight them on it. We'll give them what they want to see. And we are not terrorists, because there is a demand for our product. There are drug addicts all across the United States who want what we have to sell. How are we terrorizing them? We're not, literally, they're telling me, like, we're not like ISIS or the Taliban bombing innocent people. We just supply a product that there is a demand for. And if this designation means that we have to hold off for a little while in order to protect our networks, that's exactly what we will do.
Interesting. So what do you think? What is the plan then? Are they gonna stop?
That's kind of what's been happening
across the border.
I mean, fentanyl numbers have been going down, but I don't think that's the plan. The plan is to move operations, and I've been reporting on this extensively. It's all happening in Canada now. No one else is clocking it. And it's so obvious. It started during Trump's first administration, when he first started cracking down on the southern border. Cartels knew they could go into Canada and they didn't need a visa like they needed to get into the US. It was just a regular tourist visa. They didn't need to apply for anything or pay for anything. They could just go get their tourist, like have a regular tourist visa the way I come to the United States, set up shop, negotiate and network with pre-existing organized crime groups in Canada, whether that be the Hells Angels, the big one, or Brothers Keepers, or Red Scorpion, or the United Nations gang, and say, hey, look, you guys have incredible access, okay, over 5,000 miles of practically unprotected border into the United States. We can produce this product here and traffic it. Not to mention, a lot of these pre-existing gangs have large Asian populations. And what do we have in Vancouver? The Port of Vancouver. And where are the fentanyl precursors coming in? From China. So you move these precursors, the movement is now no longer coming into Mexico. It's coming into Canada. You set up shop, You increase profit. You tell all these guys that are already there, hey, look, if you let us, Sinaloa or Jalisco, in to work with you guys, we're going to quadruple profits.
So wait, you're saying that no more, are you saying in addition to Mexico produced fentanyl, or it's all moved to Canada?
I think the majority is moved to Canada.
The majority of it's moved to Canada?
Yes. I am 99% sure about that, because you can never be 100% sure, but I am so sure about that. Last summer, I wanted to crack down on this story because I had an individual reach out to me who was an operative for the Sinaloa cartel working in Canada, running these labs.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed me the labs that the Sinaloa cartel is operating with.
Physically?
Yeah.
Where are they putting them?
They're putting them in suburban sort of, so they're particularly in the West Coast, in BC and in Alberta, which is like a prairie province. And so there's a lot of farmland and it's residential. And prior to this, it was meth labs that they had running out there. And there would always be like a random meth lab explosion in Abbotsford or, this is like a smaller city.
For 25 years, the Armed Forces Vacation Club has helped military and veteran families make memories with incredibly discounted rates on resorts, hotels, cruises, and more in worldwide destinations. Sign up is completely free. See if you qualify and start saving with the most trusted name in military travel.
And then these turned into fentanyl labs that were completely under the radar because we also didn't have Canadian law enforcement like patrolling these areas to an extent that they would patrol like a large city like Vancouver or Toronto. So you're bringing in precursors from the Port of Vancouver easily because less than 1% of cargo that comes into the Port of Vancouver is actually inspected by authorities. Or
less than how much?
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%?
That is an official number, yes. So the majority of the cargo that's coming into the Port of Vancouver is unmonitored. And you have longshoremen that are on organized crime payroll or turning a blind eye. These precursors are being brought to labs throughout the Lower Mainland, and they are producing fentanyl there. And it started off as distributing this product throughout Canada because just like the United States, there have in, this insatiable appetite for fentanyl in Canada. During the pandemic, more people at one point were dying of fentanyl overdose deaths than from COVID. So that was a major health crisis. And then there's this major crackdown at the southern border. You already have cartel operatives established in the north. You have over 5,000 miles of practically unprotected border. You know, it's Greenland, and you can fly across, you can drive your boat across, you can drive your dirt bike across. And that just left it as open field for these members of organized crime to start to bring their operations to the next level by trafficking everything into the United States. And it's important to keep in mind that Canadian law enforcement knows this is happening, very aware, has been aware since around 2017.
Oh, this has been happening since 2017.
It's been happening, since Trump's first, so 2016.
Wow.
This has been, I would say, for the past 10 years exactly, is when cartel operatives from Mexico started to move operations into Canada. And law enforcement knows this is happening, but Canadian law enforcement does not have the resources to crack down on this.
How many precursors are there? Do you know?
No, I don't know how to make fentanyl. But it's fairly simple.
How big are these labs? I mean, when you say a meth lab, that's usually what, like a trailer out in the middle of a field?
Yeah, a lot of these are just small, like single occupancy homes.
Okay.
That are
a farmhouse.
Yes, exactly. Some of them are
buying the farmland.
Yeah, or they're renting it from. So, a lot of the farmland is owned by certain families, and they will rent out these plots of land or whatever little house is already on this land. A way that the Canadian authorities crack down on members of organized crime is not through directly charging them with producing or conspiracy to traffic. They will crack down on their ownership of a home, and then they no longer have a place to run operations. So that gets taken away. It's that particular is under invested differently, and it hinders the way that they're able to work. But mentioning the law enforcement is, even though they know that this is going on, the resources just are not there. And I have a really good source who is with the RCMP, that's Canada's National Police Force, and he specializes in organized crime. And we talk about that 1% of fentanyl number very frequently, because he says neither my colleagues nor myself believe that number, because we have seen so many operations go under the radar, especially when they're working undercover. And I said, well, why isn't there a crackdown then? Why aren't they stopping it? And why is the Canadian government only implementing a fentanyl czar when Trump is telling them to crack down, not when thousands of people are dying on a monthly basis from fentanyl use? And he explicitly tells me it's because they just don't have the means to do it. They haven't even been able to crack down on local gangland. How are they now supposed to focus on transnational crime organizations? The head of RCMP was asked just recently, how many organized crime groups, individual organized crime groups, do you think are operating in Canada right now? And he responds, it's on video, I don't have a number off the top of my head. I think 4,000. And so the question is clarified. There are 4,000 organized crime groups operating in Canada with their own individual leadership and networks. And the head of the RCMP said, yes, I would say so, around 4,000.
Join me for our first ever live stream debrief hosted exclusively on Vigilance Elite Patreon. We'll unpack the China-Taiwan conflict, reveal insights from our Dubai trip with GBRS Group's JCal, and break down the Iran-Israel conflict's impact on everyday citizens. Stream it for free on July 1st, 6 p.m. Central Time on Vigilance Elite Patreon. The national debt is spiraling out of control. Trade wars are causing record volatility, and inflation continues to rise. Are you prepared for what might be coming in the rest of 2025? Don't sit on the sidelines. Take action today to help protect your hard-earned cash. You can even do this tax and penalty-free. Call today at 855-936-GOLD or visit SeanLikesGold.com. Have a plan, get organized, and protect what you've worked so hard for. Right now, you can get a free 2025 gold and silver kit from my partners at the top-rated precious metals company, Goldco. Learn more about the benefits of gold and silver, especially during these economic times. Plus, you could get unlimited bonus silver if you qualify. That's unlimited bonus silver. Help secure your future today. Visit SeanLikesGold.com or call 855-936-GOLD. That's SeanLikesGold.com